Beidou has recently been brought into the spotlight due to her involvement in our journey to Inazuma, as well as her being available for free as a reward in the Thunder Sojourn event, but I would still consider her to be one of the less used characters in the game. She's one of my personal favorites because of how unique she feels to play, despite being only a 4-star character. Unfortunately though, I think this uniqueness is one of the main reasons why she isn't used very much. Welcome back to my Why Character series, where I try to investigate the gameplay design of underused or underrated Genshin characters to try and get a better understanding of their shortcomings. miHoYo, the developer behind Genshin Impact, is releasing a new mobile game today, July 29th, and I am beyond excited to announce that they are sponsoring this video. miHoYo's first endeavor in the genre of romance, Tears of Themis is a brand new detective adventure of love and wits. Set in the city of Stellis, you play as a fledgling attorney at Themis law firm, and your mission is to unravel the secrets behind the recent cases of gentle people becoming inexplicably violent. Explore the world by gathering information from various NPCs and collecting evidence from 3D crime scenes, then use your findings in court trials to deliver justice. The game is divided into episodes, with each having their own story, but each one contributes to the single overarching mystery. And of course, on the way, you will bond with 4 very handsome young men. No one told me to say that, I'm just telling it how it is. Interact with them in a variety of ways to increase affection levels and unlock new stories. This is presented through dynamic artwork and brought to life by professional voice acting, creating a wonderfully immersive experience. The last core gameplay mechanic is card cultivation. Featuring beautifully drawn artwork, these cards increase your team's power, allowing you to pass through the game's more difficult levels. By the time you are watching this, the game will likely already be available on the Google Play and Apple Store. It's free to play, so be sure to check it out using the links in the description. Huge thank you to miHoYo and Tears of Themis for supporting the channel. Out of the 35 characters currently playable in Genshin Impact, Beidou is the only character to have a mechanic that encourages a reactive playstyle rather than an active one. With other characters, you run up to an enemy and kill them. With Beidou, you can still obviously do that, but the optimal and intended way to play her is to mainly counterattack. This is because her elemental skill, Tidecaller, does increased damage based on damage absorbed, maxing out at 2 hits. Thanks to her first Ascension passive, Retribution, perfectly timing Tidecaller also grants the maximum damage bonus. Furthermore, her 4th Ascension passive grants her stronger and faster basic attacks after a max damage Tidecaller. This is a really fun concept because it requires player skill to know when to use the ability and to be able to time satisfying perfect counters. When you land one at max damage, the exaggerated VFX visual indicator and powerful voice line makes it feel even more rewarding. At the same time though, this introduces an element that can sometimes feel out of the player's control. Although every enemy in Genshin Impact telegraphs their attacks to some extent, enemy behavior can be strange at times. As I've mentioned in previous videos, gameplay is the most fun when the player is fully in control, meaning that when things go wrong, it's their own fault. This is because rather than being frustrated over something being unfair or annoying, they can reflect on themselves and try to improve. Even though Beidou doesn't suffer from this super heavily, it's far too easy to just replace her with another character who never has to wait for anything. The problems obviously don't end there though. Let's move on to her elemental burst, Stormbreaker. It can rapidly apply elemental damage to enemies, and in this game, that is a quality that makes many characters very strong. Additionally, it provides resistance to interruption and a significant amount of reduction to incoming damage, which can also be applied to other members of the team. It even grants a shield with Beidou's first constellation. However, this ability has quite a few setbacks that keep it from being as good as it should be. It suffers from being one of many bursts that have the highest energy cost of 80. This can be played around by running another Electro character to act as a battery, especially because of the high voltage resonance, but at the same time, this hurts Beidou's flexibility on teams. Unlike other sub DPS characters that you can slap onto any team more or less, Beidou is effective when she is a focal point of the composition. In general, the energy cost significantly hurts the ability's uptime, but even if you were to have perfect energy gain, the 15-second duration and 20-second cooldown guarantees that you can't have it up indefinitely. Most characters don't have abilities that are capable of having 100% uptime, but Zhongli and Ganyu are examples that show it is possible. The biggest thing that I think hurts this ability though is the fact that it deals electro damage. Like I mentioned in my Kaching video, Electro's transformative reactions are just not very rewarding to use because their effects aren't very useful and they do relatively low damage. The last part about Beidou's gameplay design, which I believe is a major setback, is the fact that it feels split up. Based on her C0 kit, it seems like her role on the team is meant to be a sub DPS which you can switch to for counters, and then you use her burst to support your main DPS. Her C1, 2, and 6 buff Stormbreaker, and in turn this playstyle. On the other hand, her 4th Ascension passive and C4 buff her normal attacks, which would essentially require her to be the main DPS to take advantage of. While in one sense it's cool that she can fulfill a variety of roles by making use of different playstyles, it feels like these parts of her kit are useless for her in her main role. If you want to run main DPS Beidou and enjoy it, then that's great, but this split nature inherently puts her at a disadvantage when compared to other characters who have their entire kits centered on one role. On the topic of being split, her max damage absorption from Tidecaller and the shield strength from C1 strangely scales with her max HP. On her, you definitely want to build attack and crit stats for upfront damage, but due to what I discussed earlier, she also greatly benefits from energy recharge and elemental mastery. That leaves no room for HP, which is not nearly as valuable as a stat to have in general. HP scaling works fine for other characters who provide utility over damage, but for Beidou, whose value mainly comes from providing damage, it seems like an afterthought. Attack scaling would make much more sense, similar to how Jean and Chi-Chi's healing is scaled, and I don't want to hear that it would make her too strong for a 4-star, because Bennett literally exists in this game. Even though I've been discussing Beidou's problems this whole time, I still think you should try using her, especially now that you can grab a copy of her for completely free. For one, I just think she's incredibly fun to use. She is so unique and provides you with a different feeling gameplay style without you needing to spend tons of Primo Gems on a 5-star character. Although the damage percentages on her abilities don't look impressive on first glance, when you factor in their unique properties, they are quite strong. Tidecaller gets the bonus damage for taking hits, and Stormbreaker's lightning jumps between nearby opponents. If you already owned her before the Thunder Sojourn event, that's really good because her 1st, 2nd, and 3rd constellations give her incredible boosts in usefulness. I would say Fischl is her best partner, but now you can certainly run Beidou with the Electro Traveler as a great free alternative. Beidou is a really cool character beyond just her gameplay though. Although she was featured in the Archon Quest Chapter 2 Prologue and First Act, we didn't learn too much about her since Kazuha was meant to be the main highlight. We saw her outgoing and reliable personality, but her character is much more complex than that. Beidou is someone who is always willing to lend a hand, even if it means bending the rules a little bit. This naturally puts her at odds with the Liyue Qixing, who makes laws to maintain order, but she and Ningguang actually share a sense of mutual respect for one another. She even seems to be quite good friends with Ganyu, but decides to keep it a secret for their reputation's sake. Beidou holds her Crux crew in high regards and cares deeply for them, but at the same time is extremely inclusive. She took in Kazuha despite him being a fugitive of Inazuma, and she also lets Xiangling tag along if she is looking for seafood ingredients. And last but certainly not least, Beidou's vision story is one of the coolest pieces of lore in the game. It tells the story of her hunting Haishan, a giant dragonfish. After lots of intense build-up, it culminates with her standing on the tip of her boat all night long in the freezing wind to finally cut off Haishan's head in a single strike. This alone makes her canonically one of the most physically strong characters in all of Genshin Impact. Lastly, I think Beidou's visual design is one of the best in the game. First off, she was one of the first characters to have a color scheme which isn't related to the element of her vision. I really appreciate this because it would get pretty bland if every single Electro user wore all purple. But what I think is the coolest part about her visual design is how it doesn't concede to established tropes. The idea of a pirate has a very distinct look to it, including things like the pirate hat, cutlass, peg leg, hook hand, and parrot. I think that being a pirate still seems to fit Beidou though, despite not having any of these things. This is because her visual design gets across the same characteristics of fierceness and adventurousness in a completely different way. The prominent saturated red reflects her bold personality, but other details like her height and hairpin give her a mature and serious vibe. The golden accents and royalty-like cloak suit her well, especially given her titles as the Queen of the Crux Fleet and Uncrowned Lord of the Ocean. Her character portrait is especially brilliant because unlike how most other women are depicted in a cute or elegant pose, Beidou's pose fittingly exudes strength and confidence. Overall, Beidou is such a cool character in every aspect and deserves the attention she is getting. Now all I can do is keep praying for Xinyan to get some story presence. But anyway, I would love to see a reactive playstyle be implemented in more characters down the line because of how unique and fun it feels. But until then, Beidou will continue to stand out amongst the rest of the playable characters, for better and for worse. That's all I have for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, thank you for watching.